Without further ado, we have two dynamic speakers today. They are part of our Reach ministry, which is our young adults ministry. Um, they're both, one is doing his master's, and one is a junior, and they both are doing dynamic things. Spartan Prime, okay? And they're both doing dynamic things for the kingdom. It is without further ado that I want to bring up our first speaker. Her name is Lauren Pickett. Can you give a
Thank you, thank you. Thank you guys for the very warm welcome. I mean, I think I found my biggest fans over here, but but I want to say thank you to everybody for coming out today to listen to my speech here, and shout out to Antonio for approaching me with this. And thank you, thank you, thank you. So he told me I have around 10 minutes. We're gonna see if I can fit this in here. So Antonio came to me and he said that he wanted Tyler and I to speak today and to make it something that we're passionate about and something that hits home. So today's speech is going to be about reaching your full potential and understanding your intrinsic value. So every single day we all face situations and challenges that challenge our sense of self-worth and make us wonder and question our own potential, whether it's school or relationships or whatever it may be, right? It can feel like we're battling giants that tell us we aren't enough. So most of us, I'd say actually probably all of us, know the David and Goliath story, but I'm just going to come up here and say it one more time. So quick summary. In the Bible, David faced Goliath, a giant warrior over 9 feet tall who taunted the Israelites for 40 days. While no one else had the courage to fight him, David, a young shepherd, stepped up, confident that God was with him. He faced Goliath with 5 smooth stones and a sling, and in one shot struck him down. And this story is very powerful because it's a lesson on courage, faith, and knowing your value. So in many ways, we all have our own Goliaths, which are situations or thoughts or circumstances or whatever they may be, appointments, whatever, right, that seem so big and overpowering, right? But what if we approached every situation the way that David approached Goliath? So David never approached Goliath and said, "Ooh, I hope I can win. I don't know how I'm feeling." He knew that he had God on his side, so he was able to step into his power without fear and without hesitation. And just like David, right, we have our own battles, but luckily we're not fighting 9-foot tall giants, right? I hope we're not, right? That'd be kind of crazy. You guys should record that if you are. I want to see it. So, quick fun fact for you guys, and it was mind-blowing for me, but you don't have to answer out loud, just answer in your head. But if I asked you how many thoughts the average human being has every single day, what would you say? Maybe a couple hundred, a couple thousand? Well, the average person actually has between 12,000 and 60,000 thoughts a day. That is according to the National Science Foundation. And they also reiterate that 80% of those thoughts are negative and 95% are repetitive from the day before. So it's no wonder that with these statistics that many of us struggle with low self-esteem, questioning our own potential and questioning our own value, and they also tell us that about 85% of people around the world struggle with this, right? So here's a great analogy for you guys, right? Consider how all of us look outside of ourselves for external validation, right? Right, we want the Prada shoes, right? And we don't really like the Prada shoes. We don't think that they're comfortable, and they're a little clanky, and they make kind of weird noises when you walk around, but at least they say Prada on the side, right? Or you're driving down the highway in your Lamborghini, and you don't really like the seats because you have to kind of duck down, and it makes your back hurt, but at least it's a Lamborghini, right? Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Right? So when people are shopping, right, they're often buying more than the product, right? So they're buying the brand. And it's about the feeling of power, confidence, and status that those brands project, right? There's nothing wrong with driving down the highway in your Lamborghini wearing Prada shoes. I hope I can be that rich one day. That'd be great. That's right. Right? But the issue is that we're looking to these outside objects and these outside views. We'd rather look successful than actually be successful, and we'd rather make it appear that we're confident when we're not really confident, right? So it's like pouring water into a bucket with a hole, right? The more water you're pouring into that bucket, the more water is spilling out because of that hole at the bottom. But if our value is only based on these things, then we're building our self-worth on something external, right? Something that can change, something that can fade, or something that can be taken away. So it's important that the struggle with self-esteem begins when we allow our self-worth to be dictated by external validation as opposed to our own intrinsic value that we all know that we have and that God tells us that we have. So shifting back to David, David's mindset is a great example of positive self-talk. He didn't go into battle saying, like I said previously, that he hopes he wins and that he's doubtful, right? Instead, he declared boldly that he would defeat Goliath because God was on his side, right? And imagine if we all spoke to ourselves like that, right? Affirming who we are and what we're capable of. So how do we shift away from those 80% negative thoughts and focus on something greater? Well, it's sort of simple in a way, right? Because the answer lies within positive self-talk. And when you read scripture that shows you your true potential and explains your true potential, that's when you can really shift into that positive self-talk. Here's another statistic for you guys. Research from the American Psychological Association suggests that how we talk to ourselves can significantly impact our mental health, right? There's a strong correlation between negative self-talk and increased levels of anxiety, depression, and stress. On the other hand, positive self-talk can be a powerful tool for improving emotional regulation and coping strategies. There's even a study that revealed that athletes who use positive self-talk saw a 9% improvement in performance compared to those who use negative self-talk. So imagine if we applied that to our own lives and what a difference that can make as we face our own giants. So when we shift our thoughts from self-doubt to self-belief, from negative to positive, right? We're taking the first step in recognizing our intrinsic value and allowing it to shine through every aspect of our life. Just as David saw himself through God's eyes, we are called to do the same, right? So the world may see us as too small or not qualified or insufficient, but God sees you guys as a person of value with a plan and a purpose. Thank you. Jeremiah 29:11 says, "For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you hope in future." David's value was not found in others' opinions, but instead in God's purpose for him. And if we start seeing ourselves the way that God sees us, strong, capable, and worthy, then those giants will seem a lot smaller. So just like David had to trust and wait in God's timing, it's important that every single one of you trust and wait in God's timing. A lot of times we want things too fast, and it's great to want to achieve things. It's fantastic, but when we one of my favorite analogies is if we know that we have $1 million that we're going to get next Friday, we're walking in expectancy. And then when we see somebody on the street find their $100,000 or their $200,000, we say, that's really cute, but I'm getting my $1 million next week. Because I'm not worried about what they're getting, right? Yeah. Right. Thank you. Therefore, it's important that we understand that when we have something planned for our lives and God has something planned for us, that those Goliaths will seem a lot smaller if we just trust in God's timing and God's purpose for us. Therefore, walking in faith means trusting that even the waiting has purpose, right? David spent years as a shepherd before becoming king, and in those years, he learned patience, humility, and courage, right? One of my favorite things to say, I think my dad has heard me say it a couple times, is when you pray for cake and God gives you the eggs, the butter, and the milk and the flour, don't walk out of the kitchen, right? That's right. That's right. That's right. So, when you ask God for humility and wisdom and patience and leadership, so when He puts you in those positions to be a leader and to be able to use those strengths that you prayed for, don't say no to those opportunities. Instead, step into them, right? It's what you prayed for, right? It's your purpose, right? Therefore, David's optimism wasn't blind hope. It was based on his faith and understanding of God's plan. And in the same way, when we lead with optimism, we shift our perspective from fear to faith, from comparison to collaboration. We realize that our potential isn't limited by others, but it is limitless in God. And David didn't see himself as competing with other soldiers around him. Instead, he was a part of a greater plan to bring victory to Israel. When we collaborate and uplift each other, we face our giants together. There's a psychologist named Alice Schluger who suggests that competition makes people constantly compare themselves and look to others for approval. And it's important to realize that a lot of times competition happens at the bottom and collaboration happens at the top. So when you understand your intrinsic value, you don't have to search for validation. You already know your worth. And 1 Thessalonians 5:11 says, "Therefore encourage one another and build one another up, just as you are doing." Therefore, let's be the ones who encourage and lift each other up, knowing we're all walking in our God-given potential. And I have one more analogy, well, actually two more analogies I want to give you guys. So a lot of times, a lot of us like to take walks, right? We leave our house and we say, okay, I'm going to walk from here to here, walk across the pond, and circle right back. So when we're walking, typically if we see, dogs or something behind a fence, right, a big fence, we're like, okay, sure, they're barking a lot, but I'm going to keep walking, right? Most of us, right? And those dogs that are barking can represent our own negative thoughts. They can represent negative outside opinions from society, social media, friends, family, whatever that may be. And those barking dogs on the walk represent 12,000 of those negative thoughts that you have. And it's important that when you get those thoughts or you're talking to people who might have a negative outlook, is that you just keep on moving, right? You see your goal, just keep walking, right? You know where you're going, you know what you're going to achieve, just keep walking. And lastly, one of my favorite quotes, I didn't come up with it. I heard it on social media. I don't know the guy's name. Wish I came up with it. It's a great quote. So, think about a bird landing on a branch, right? Does the bird trust the branch to hold its weight, or does the bird trust its wings, right? I've seen countless birds land on branches, but what I've never seen is a bird land on a branch and then the branch break and the bird fall and die, right? The bird trusts its wings. So therefore, when you're reaching for your goals, trust your wings, right? And tap into your potential. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Amen. Can y'all give Lauren another hand clap? They love you, LP.